On Wednesday, December the 17th, 2025, the evangelist Franklin Graham preached a Christmas sermon to the American military, in which he encouraged them to embrace the God of hate and war. And a week later, the United States invaded Venezuela, presumably in the name of this warlike God. Yet John the Baptist says Jesus comes with the gentleness of a lamb. John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 29. The next day he saw Jesus coming towards him and declared, "Here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." And so my question to you today, who do we listen to? Franklin Graham or John the Baptist? My name is Pastor Pete, and I want to challenge the way we so easily turn following Jesus into the language of a warrior. I've heard Christian leaders speak of following the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, who comes like the Lion of Judah to destroy all before him. This image is particularly troubling because Jesus teaches us to show love and compassion to the widows and the orphans, to welcome the stranger, and in fact, to love our enemies. Jesus never ever asked his followers to crush those who opposed him. Quite specifically, Luke chapter 9 tells of a Samaritan town that turned Jesus away, and his disciples said, "Lord, shall we call down fire from heaven?" And Jesus turns and rebukes them and says, "That is not my way." Godly leadership resembles the gentleness of a lamb rather than the violence of a lion. This is the kind of gentleness that does not call down the armies of heaven when Jesus was on the cross, but rather prays for those who are crucifying him. And so my t-shirt today is about the crucified Christ. So John the Baptist talks about Jesus as the one who takes away the sin of the world. In Greek, this reads as the sin of the cosmos. And here, John is borrowing a word from Greek philosophy. Cosmos describes the created order, including everything in the heavens and on earth. Jesus does not come only for those who are capable, for those who are confident in their faith, for those who are at peace with God. Instead, he comes for the cosmos, for those who are broken, for those who are cynical and disbelieving, for the least and the lowest. We hear this again in John chapter 3, verse 16. God so loved the world, the cosmos, that he sent Jesus. A theme that is repeatedly found in John's Gospel. Jesus comes for everything and for everyone. So why do Christians behave as if Jesus was our possession? We want to define who Jesus blesses and who Jesus doesn't bless. We want to pass judgment on people we think Jesus won't like. Let me try this question on you. Have you ever paused to wonder why you think Jesus dislikes the same people that you dislike? Could it be that we have co-opted Jesus into our prejudices? Let me try this on you. Jesus is present with everyone, but he's especially present with those people who struggle in life, the poor, the immigrants, those people who never make it through the doors of our respectable buildings. He is particularly present with those who are shot by immigration agents, or those who find their lives ended by invading soldiers. Not only does Jesus come for the least and the lowest, John describes Jesus as the Lamb of God. And immediately when we hear this, we get stuck on theological position that was first introduced by Saint Anselm of Canterbury, developed then by Martin Luther and by John Calvin. They developed a theology that sees Jesus as a sin sacrifice, a lamb to be offered as a substitute for us, which is not what John the Baptist is saying. John the Baptist says Jesus is one who comes with the gentleness of a lamb. John's Gospel deliberately contrasting John the wild man with Jesus, the gentle lamb. John the Baptist saying that Jesus comes with the gentleness of a lamb. And if we want to follow him, we need to unlearn our aggressive behavior. Because Jesus teaches us to care for the widows and the orphans, to welcome the stranger, and in fact, even to love our enemies. Godly people, godly leaders, resemble the lamb rather than the lion. I have one last thought. John is this popular leader who draws crowds to the River Jordan for baptism. He's carved out a reputation for himself and has a very promising future as a religious leader. And then there's this moment when, at the peak of his popularity, John sees Jesus coming towards him, and he says to his followers, "Follow that man." And in this, John provides an example for all of us, to be willing to accept that as capable as we are, others can also lead us, and in the process, we can become better leaders. You see, by nature, we don't want to be led. We want to lead. And because of our struggle to be led by someone else, we carry resistant spirits. In fact, we even resort to words like, "Don't tell me what to do." And yet here is John the Baptist, willing to be led by someone else. We need to discover that our lives are not our own. Our lives are in God's hands. And once we hold on to this spiritual truth, it's entirely possible that God sends people who will lead us in the paths of righteousness. And these people God sends might not be readily recognized as leaders. They might not be famous or important. In fact, I'm inviting us to be open to God sending leaders our way that are not easily seen. Remember John the Baptist? John turns, sees someone who's not yet preached a sermon, who has no followers. In fact, who's so anonymous that John admits, "I didn't recognize him at first." And John says, "Follow that man." John steps back and discovers God speaking to him through Jesus. And it might just be good for our own egos, for us to step back and listen for others who might speak into our lives. God might send, for example, one of our children to speak a word of truth to us. Beware of being offended because we are older than them and they should take instruction from us. Maybe God sends someone who has no social standing, someone who's old and frail, someone who doesn't have much learning. And so we struggle to hear God speaking to us in that moment. The invitation for today, to take us back to the text, John 1:29, "Here is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." We are challenged to become godly people, people who follow the Lamb of God. The invitation to be as gentle as a lamb, to reach out to those who are on the margins, to be willing to listen to the quiet voices. And if we're willing to be led, we can become the kind of people who are useful to God. May God be with you as you go into this new year. May God hold you. May God bless you. If you found this message helpful, please feel free to pass it on to others, like and share it.